Okay, so we talked about moral luck in the broad sense last time. This lecture component, we're going to talk about the 4 types of moral luck. So these 4 types of moral luck are the result of the philosopher Thomas Nagel, 1937 to present, right? Drawing out the distinct forms based off distinct forms of moral luck, different ways that we can judge judge someone as someone's actions based off of the consequences when they had no control over it, right? Different circumstances, I suppose, under which we do not have control, that we judge judge someone's actions, right? That we assign moral praise or blame for, right? Different ways that we assign that our assignment of moral praise and blame can be affected by in manners in which we have no control over. I think I'm just confusing myself at this point. So moving on, right? The 4 types of moral luck that Nagel identified are resultant moral luck, constitutive moral luck, circumstantial moral luck, and causal moral luck. So we'll go through these in sequence. Resultant moral luck is just luck surrounding the consequences or situations. Right? It's luck of the result. Right? You know, just think of like a lottery winner. It's one in like tens of millions of chances, right, of winning the lottery. If you win the lottery, you're considered lucky, but you don't consider yourself unlucky if you lose the lottery, unless like you threw your entire life savings into tickets, in which case it's not just unlucky, that was fucking stupid to begin with. Right? So if you do something and just hope for the best and the best turns out, that's a situation, and that's an example of resultant moral luck. Right? Constitutive moral luck would be luck surrounding the circumstances that led to an agent's character, right? How someone was raised, more or less. Right? Not necessarily just how they were raised, but like that's a part of it. So luck that so luck if you've ever lost your wallet or dropped something important on the sidewalk and someone picks it up and brings it back to you and said and go excuse me, I believe this is yours, right? And hands it back to you, and you go you've probably responded, oh, I'm so lucky that you returned it. What you're commenting on is like, I'm lucky that someone of your character returned it to me, right? Versus someone who just saw it and was like, ooh, free phone, I can wipe the data and reset it to factory settings and sell it on this on the cheap, right, for some quick cash. That can be done. Oftentimes that is done. I have known people to do that. I'm not naming names, right? So yeah, it's just a matter of luck concerning how you're raised, more or less. Just your character. You're brave. You're lucky to be brave in the sense that you've encountered a lot of situations that have called for you to be brave, and so you've developed bravery. Yay, right? Circumstantial moral luck involves luck surrounding the circumstances of a situation. Now, a example of this would be to consider Nazi followers, right? In an alternative world, right? Consider Nazi followers and supporters of Hitler's Germany. Right? We would say that these people were and are worthy of moral blame, either for committing their deeds or for holding such viewpoints. We would say that, we can attribute a bad character to them, right? And they're blameworthy for that, perhaps, right? Uh, and those who committed atrocious acts are blameworthy for committing those acts. So, now imagine that in this alternative history, in 1929, when Hitler first became Chancellor of Germany, a good fourth of people who would be active participants in the Nazi Party were, forced to leave Germany and settle elsewhere because of natural disasters destroying their homes and no availability, since Germany was at the time suffering massively from the financial losses and financial and personnel losses from World War One. Right? They couldn't support themselves in Germany any longer, and they'd lost everything that bound them there. So they moved to, say, Great Britain instead. Right? And they were active Nazi supporters, right? Ideologically. Right? So they moved away from the coming hostilities, right? You know, or let's say that their employers forced them to move in this case. Right? It's quite possible that they would have, if not moved away by their employers, right, been active participants. Right? And they still certainly hold the beliefs of Nazi sympathizers. Right? But they don't get, because they were removed from the war, right, from the war front. They wound up not receiving any of the condemnation that all their fellow Nazis would have. Right? Because they didn't actively participate in the tragedies, even though they held many of the same views, they were not persecuted to the same extent, if at all. Right? That's a case of circumstantial moral luck. These are still people with some reprehensible beliefs, but since they never had a chance to act on them, they're considered and deemed less reprehensible than those people who did. That's fair. They didn't act on them. But that not because of lack of willingness, just lack of opportunity. The last case is what's called causal moral luck. And this is the recognition that we live in a deterministic universe, one dictated by cause and effect, where every effect has a cause. And so we really have, there are situations that we really have no control over, right? That wind up being assigned moral sort of, assignments, moral blame, right? A moral status, right? That are just the result of a confluence of events beyond our control. So causal moral luck would be you wind up hitting a kid when you backed out of your driveway, and he went flying and cracked his head. So kid was on his bike, and you hit him when you were backing out of your driveway, and he went flying and cracked his head and died. Right, and you go to jail for this, for involuntary manslaughter or vehicular manslaughter. But the reality is that kid stayed out late at a party, got home, got home late, drunk, passed out in bed, woke up with a hangover, realized he'd missed his alarm, and was running late for school. So he threw on his clothes, drank another fifth of vodka, in order to reduce the hangover, and grabbed his stuff and grabbed his bag and a Pop-Tart, jumped on his bike and started pedaling. right? And he wasn't paying attention to where he was going. You'd already taken every precaution to back out of your driveway safely, and it just so happened that right as you were backing out of the driveway, after having double-checked your mirrors to make sure there was no one there, he comes barreling into your path. And you're going 5 miles per hour backwards, he's going 15, 20 miles per hour forwards at a perpendicular angle. You hit him, flying, nothing to do with you, right? Complete circumstantial luck, or completely circumstantial bad luck. That is causal luck. You had no control over half the factors that led to that situation, yet you get blamed for it. Again, it's an aspect of life that's unavoidable in our moralizing. We will get blamed for things that are to a degree beyond our control, whether it's because they were in someone else's control and that person's not there to assign blame to, or we can't trace the causal chain back far enough to the person who's ultimately responsible for what led to this particular series of events, or even that it's just efficient and more expedient to blame someone, even if it immediately, rather than even if it's not necessarily wholly right to do so.